All right, so let's finish up that lesson we were working on yesterday. We'll just call it parallel and perpendicular because that's what we're kind of doing again. So what they do is it's nothing like brand new. They're just giving us a couple more examples. So we'll do 2 examples and we'll be done. I'll let you work on the homework. So this is example 7. All right, that all needs to stop. Let's grow up a little bit. Let's not act like you're in kindergarten making stupid, idiotic noises. So let's act like you're a student, okay? Not funny. It's not funny at all. I know funny, and that's not funny. It's just stupid. So stop. So here we go. It says write the equation of a line. So what's our final answer going to look like if it says write the equation of a line? What form do we usually write it in? But if it just says write an equation of a line, what form? Yeah, we're gonna write it as y equals mx plus b. So write an equation, my pen would work, of a line. All right, that passes through, or they say passing through, negative 2, 5, and parallel to so this is a little bit different than what we did earlier. That's why it's a different example. Yeah, my 8s are really bad. I've never been able to write 8s very well. I don't know why. There we go. Is that better? All right. So this is negative 2, 5, and this is 8x minus 3. All right. So what is it saying? Good. I like that. If it's parallel to this line right here, it's got to have the same slope. So what I'm... Okay. So it says write an equation of a line, so we want y equals mx plus b, that passes through this point. So that means that this is our x and this is our y. And it's parallel to this line. So I'm not going to write y equals 8x minus 3. That's not my line because that line probably does not go through this point, negative 2, 5. Okay? So I want to write a line. I want to write the equation of a line that has this x in it and has this y in it, but is parallel to this. Okay? So Nico said if it's parallel to it, it's got to have the same what? Slope. So basically what we're doing is we're just finding an equation of a line that goes through this point and has this slope. And we've done that already. Okay, so that's really not new. The only thing that's new is they give you another line. And what do we look at for that line? I don't care about the y-intercept. All I care about is the what of the other line. All I care is about the slope. I'm going to look at the slope, and if our line that we want to either draw or write the equation of, our line is going to be parallel to the line they give us. So that means I look at the slope of the line they give us, and I'm like, okay, well, if that slope is 8, well, if my line is parallel to that line they give us, then the slope of my line has to be 8. So I can just look at this and say that's going to be part of the thing I'm going to use to write the equation of a line. So I've got a point, I've got a slope. Now, we got an option. I could use the point slope form, plug all that stuff in, right? Because I have a point and I have a slope. So point slope form would be perfect. Or I could just use the slope intercept form and plug all the stuff into the slope intercept form. We did this yesterday. We did something like this, and we did it both ways. We did it once with the point slope form, then we did it once with the slope intercept form. Which one did you think was the easier of the two? I think the point slope form was just a little bit easier, okay? And it doesn't matter how you get it. As long as you write your final answer in slope intercept form, then we're good. All right, so let's just use the point slope form because I think it's a little bit easier. I'm not going to do both ways. We did it yesterday. So let's just use the point slope form. So it's going to be y minus y1. So what's our y? 5 equals m, which is 8, then times x minus, x minus x1, which is negative 2. So it's minus a negative. And it will be a plus. That's right. All right. So now all we got to do is basically just solve for y. Couple steps. We're done. It's as easy as that. So it's not really a whole lot different than it was yesterday. It's just the stuff that they gave us in the question was a little bit different. Yesterday, what did they do? They just gave you a point and a slope, right? And you had to find the equation of a line. Well, this time they kind of do the same thing, don't they? They give you a point and they kind of give you the slope. You just had to figure out what the slope is, which really shouldn't be that difficult, okay? Now the next one, it takes a little bit of doing, not much more, but a little bit more than this. So let's just finish this off. We did this several times yesterday. We're going to distribute. Let's make this plus, by the way. All right, so we've got y minus 5 equals, and to distribute the 8, so that's 8x, and it's plus 16. Because that minus negative 2 went to a plus 2. We add 5, and we're basically done. Not basically, we are done. Y equals 8x plus what? 21. And that is our answer. It's got the same slope as the one that they gave us, right? It's got 8 as the slope. It's got a different y-intercept, though. So this graph right here has a slope of 8, which is pretty steep, all right? So it's a pretty steep line. But where does it go through the y-axis? At negative 3. Where does this go through the y-axis? At 21. So it's got the same slant, except the one that we found is way up higher, all right? Because theirs crossed the y-axis at negative 3. Ours crosses at 21, positive 21. So it's just way up higher, but it's got the same exact slope. They don't ask you to graph it, but if they did, that's what you're finding. Okay, you're just finding a different line with the same slope that goes through that point, negative 2, 5. If I was to graph this thing right here, you would find out that our graph would cross negative 2, 5. Okay? But they're not asking you to graph it, so we're not going to do that right now. It's pretty easy, right? Yeah, it's not much different than what we did yesterday. All right, let's do last one. Example 8. I'm not going to write all these words out, write the equation of a line, but it says write the equation of a line that passes through negative 2, 5 and is perpendicular. I'm just going to put the symbol for perpendicular instead of the word. It's perpendicular to this equation right here. So it's not parallel to it. Is that the same? Oh yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? Except what? What's the big difference? It's perpendicular instead of what? To parallel, okay? They give you the same point, the same equation right here, all right? But I want to find a line that's not parallel to this, it's perpendicular. And it has to go through that point, negative 2, 5. Everybody with me? So, on the problem we did before, we just looked at the slope and we said, oh, we're just going to use that slope of 8. But this time we're not going to use a slope of 8. What are we going to use a slope of? Negative 1 over 8. Why did I pick that? Did I pick that out of the blue? It's because they're negative reciprocals of each other. That's right. So I look at the slope that they give us. It's 8. My line has to be perpendicular to that line. So my slope can't be 8. It's got to be what? Negative 1 over 8. Then they're going to be perpendicular to each other. Okay, so I'm going to use this point. I'm going to use this slope. And then I'm going to just put it into the point slope form, solve for y, and I'm done. So it's really not much different. It's a little bit different because I changed it from an 8 to a negative 1 over 8. Does everybody see why I got negative 1 over 8? Because they're perpendicular, and slopes that are perpendicular have negative reciprocals of each other. So this was 8 over 1, so I changed the sign to make it negative. I flip the 8 over 1, and I get 1 over 8. Everybody good? Yeah, we've discussed that before. That's not new. All right, so let's put it in the slope-intercept form. So y minus y1, which is 5, equals m, which is negative 1 over 8 this time, times what? X minus negative 2, or it's going to come out to be plus 2, right? We already did that. Should be good with that. Well, this is going to be kind of ugly. Distributing a fraction through here, you could do that. But watch, I got a little, it's not a trick, but a different way of doing this. Anybody see a better way to do this instead of distributing a negative 1/8? What's another way I could get rid of that negative 1/8? Okay. Well, let's multiply it by, we can get rid of the negative. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just multiply by 8. Because, actually, I want to move this. This is what I wanted to move. Just give myself a little more room. Okay, I'll do this in a different color just so you see what's going on. This might be a little confusing to you. So if it is, just distribute the negative 1/8. But I tell you the truth, if you compare the two ways of doing it, I think what I'm going to show you right now, I think is a little bit easier. That's why I'm doing it. I wouldn't show you a harder way just because it's harder, okay? I'll show you the easiest way to do this stuff. That's what I'm trying to anyway. So I could get rid of this negative 1/8 by multiplying by 8/1. Now, I could multiply by a negative, but what's that going to make my 8 right here? It's going to make that a negative, right? And then I just have to get rid of the negative anyway. Let's just keep the negative over here on this side. So this might be a little bit weird, a little bit confusing. If you're solid on solving for x in these situations, this shouldn't be that big of a deal. So let's just watch. Multiply this side by 8. What am I going to do over here? Multiply everything over here by 8. Everybody see that? That's why I put it in parentheses, because I have to multiply everything on the left by 8. Am I multiplying everything over here on the right by 8? Yeah, I actually am. Because these are two things that are being multiplied, correct? So watch. If I said 2 times 3 times 5, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's not put the 2 there just yet. I will in a second. What if I asked you to multiply, let's say this was a side of an equal sign. Okay, this is on the right side of the equal sign. And I needed to multiply this by 2. Everybody with me on this? So watch, if I multiply this by 2, am I multiplying the 3 by 2 and the 5 by 2? I'm not. I'm just multiplying by 2, because what's 3 times 5? It's 15, right? So 15 times 2. You understand that? I'm not going to go 2 times 3 and then 2 times 5. There's no distributive property here. So this 8 right here in yellow, this 8/1, this is kind of like the 3. This is kind of like the 5. So do I multiply both of these by 8? No, I just multiply this thing by 8. And really, I'm multiplying the whole entire right side by 8. All right, I don't know if that made any sense. I might have made it more confusing, so sorry about that. Let's do the rest of this. Let's distribute this. So what do we get? 8y minus what? 40 equals, what happens here? That cancels, but I still have that negative, don't I? I could have brought the negative over here, but then I would have had a negative 8y. Then I'd have to get rid of a negative 8. It really wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I don't know. I just thought it'd make it a little easier. It might make it worse for you. I don't know. So what's this negative have to do to everything in here? It's got to distribute, doesn't it? Do you agree with that? Yeah. Am I making this too hard? I don't know. Maybe I am. Let's do this. Let's solve for y now. So I add a 40 to both sides. I add a 40 to this side. All right, this is 8y equals, what's this going to be? Negative x, what, plus 38. Oops, where's my... Am I doing this right? No. No, we already talked about that. So that goes. Okay, yeah. It'll work. All right, so now watch. Divide by 8. Divide this side by 8. Divide this by 8. Let's see what we get. That cancels. Y equals. Let's write it so it looks like there's a slope there. How would I write that? No. There's a negative 1 up here, right? How could I write that as a fraction out front and then just an x? Negative 1 over 8. Good. Negative 1 over 8. And then just put the x over here like this. Do you agree that that's the same exact thing? This just looks better. Why does this look better? Because I can see my slope just sitting right there. Okay, that's my slope, negative 1/8. Okay, and then I simplify this. Let's see, what goes into that? 2. 2 is the only thing that goes into that. 2 goes into that how many times? Anybody know? It's 19. And 2 goes into this. You know that one. What? 4. So what is this? 19 over 4. And that is the answer. So this line right here is perpendicular to the line that they gave us. And it goes through negative 2. What is it? Negative 2, 5? Is that what it was? Yep. Negative 2, 5. And it's perpendicular to that other line. And that's the one right there. Now, that's kind of weird. If you were to graph that, there's no way in the world you would have guessed 19 over 4. Would you agree? All right, 19 over 4 is what? 20 over 4 is what? 5. 19 over 4, so it's just a little bit less than 5. And there's no way on a graph that you could accurately depict where that is. But anyway, that's how you do it. I'll tell you what, just for fun, let's just do this. I'll do this a little faster than what I just did. Let's put that information into the slope-intercept form. So it's negative 2, 5. I'll write it over again. So it's negative 2, 5, and the slope is negative 1/8. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it into the slope-intercept form to begin with. I'm not going to put it into the point-slope form. Okay? So, I mean, this is a way that at some point you'll probably have to be able to do this. So let's watch. So I'm going to put it into y equals mx plus b. Oops. Y equals mx plus b. Alex, question? Yes. So let's put, what are we going to put in for this stuff? Well, do I have a y? Do I have an x? Sure I do. That's my x, and that's my y. It's back here. Or underneath here. There's tissues right here. All right, so what am I going to put in for the y? 5. What am I going to put in for the m? Negative 1/8 times x, which is what? Negative 2 over 1 plus b. This might be easier than what this was. All right, and it's probably a good example to show you that sometimes using the point slope form might work out a little easier, sometimes a little more complicated. I think this one might be just a tad more complicated than doing it like this. I don't know. Let's see. So I've got 5 equals, and then negative times negative is positive. This is going to be 2 over 8, but what's 2 over 8? Reduce it. 1 over 4. Okay? Everybody with me on this? So now it kind of works out nice. Minus a fourth, minus a fourth. What am I going to change 5 into, though? If I'm going to go 5 minus 1/4, common denominator would be 4. What's going to be on top then? What over 4 is equal to 5? 20. So what's 20 minus 1? 19 over what? 4. And there's your y-intercept. And you're basically done, basically, because you got to write the equation of the line now. So what is it? Y equals negative 1/8 x, oops, there we go, plus 19 over 4. So we got the same exact equation, but we got it 2 different ways. This one we use the point slope form. This one we use the slope intercept form. You decide which one you want to use. I don't care. Now, sometimes in the book, they'll say, use the point slope form to find the equation of a line. Okay, and then they'll say, write the answer in slope-intercept form. Sometimes they'll say, use slope-intercept form in order to find the equation of a line. All right? On a quiz or a test, I don't care how or which one of these formulas you use, as long as you just write your answer slope-intercept form. Make sense? Yeah. We talked about that general form the other day, didn't we? Was it yesterday or day before? Day before? Yeah, I think I went through everything on that. So let's do an example with that. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I think that's not enough for a whole day's lesson, so I'm just going to throw that in here. This will be bonus math. All right, so example 9. Here's what it says. It says, show that these 2 equations are perpendicular. So if they're perpendicular, what do you think I'm going to do? They give you 2 equations of a line. In order to show they're perpendicular, what are you going to find? You're going to find their slopes, right? You're going to find their slopes. And then you're going to look at them. If they're negative reciprocals of each other, then they're what? Perpendicular. Okay? If they're not perpendicular. All right? So here's the 2 equations they give. But they give it to you in general form. Now, if you wanted to, you could always turn it into slope-intercept form and then just look at the slopes. But in general form, there's a little equation that we did the other day in order to find the slope, and I'll write it down here in a second, just so you can remember. So do you remember what the general form was? AX plus BY equals C. Do you remember how we found the slope? Did I show you? I can't remember. I wish I could. My memory's terrible. Did I show you how to do it? I'm going to do it again. So let's do this. I don't know if I showed you this or not. I think it was at the end of class, and I just kind of threw it in real quick. But what if I wanted to solve for y? I'll just show you where this equation comes from. We got time. All right, so what if I wanted to solve for y? I think I did this, yeah. I'm going to do it real quick then. So by stays right there. How do I get rid of this ax? Subtract it, and we're going to put it out in front of this c. Then I divide by b, correct? Divide by b. Oops. B, and divide this by b. So now, this actually tells us something. Okay, y equals this stuff right here. So what do you think this is? It's y equals something x. What is that something? It's the slope, isn't it? It's m, right, the slope. So from the general form, if I just take negative a over b, that's going to tell me the slope. So that makes it a lot easier. It really does. All right, because I don't have to go through this thing, solve for y both times. I've already done it here, right? And I already know what the slope is. It's negative a over b. So how could I find the slope of this line right here without changing it to slope-intercept form? How could I find the slope? Negative what? A over b. So it's negative, what's the a? 4. What's the b? 3. So that's the slope of that line right there. So that's kind of nice, isn't it? And then let's do the same thing here. Let's find the slope of this line. So again, it's negative a over b. So it's negative, and then a 3 is on top, and the b is what? It's not a 4, it's a negative 4, which is important because what's that going to come out to? Negative, negative, it's positive what? 3 over 4. Now, let's compare the slopes. Are those two lines perpendicular to each other? Yes, they are. Okay, because that's negative 4/3. This is the negative reciprocal, right? We change the sign, flip the fraction, and they are perpendicular. So yes, they are perpendicular. And that's what they're asking, okay? They just say, show that they're perpendicular. They could say, are they perpendicular, okay? And that's what you would do. You would find the slopes. Pretty simple. We good? Yeah. So let's do this. I'm going to, this is a little different than what your lesson plan said at the beginning, I believe. Let me see. 57. We didn't do 45 to 56 yet, did we? Did we stop at 44? Was that the last? Anybody know? Anybody have an old homework? The last homework? I think we stopped at 44. Like 2-3A, is that right? Have we done B yet? Have we done 2-3B? Oh, okay, right. Yeah, 2-3B was up to 44, right? So 2-3C, I said it was going to be to 56. Yeah. Yeah, let me just, it's going to be a little extra, but that's okay. You got the whole weekend, right? So so we'll call it section 2-3. What'd I say? You've already done B, right? I need to get this straight. So this is C. All right, so this is C. So 2-3C, and we will do, I'll tell you what, I'll just give you the odds. How about that? 45 to 68. 45. It's really not that many. It's really not that many if I gave them all to you, because they're fairly easy. But I'll just give you the odds, and it wouldn't be 8. I know. What? Okay, good. Then you don't have to do those. All right, so there you go. So I'll go 45 to 67. Yep. I don't know. It's section 2.3. Just turn to section 2.3 homework and you'll see 45 to 67. It's like page 123, it looks like. Page 123. All right, so there you go. I cut your break. All right, 45 to 67. You've got about 15 minutes left in class, 14 minutes. So if you get started on it, I bet you could do almost all of these, if not all of them, by the time class is over. What's that? No, we won't get any more books. No. They just don't exist. Like, he's gone to like...
They don't make them anymore?
Yeah, they don't. It's an older book, and nobody's distributing anymore. Nobody's selling them, and he had to go to like 3 places just to get the 12 books that we got. But you've got it. I mean, you got the exact same thing on your PDF. So